Good evening. I'm Courtney Black, working with Group 1. Our project is finding a supply chain software solution for MF Cachat. The company is growing at an impressive 13%, so it's going to be very important to find the right software. You guys are currently using MCBA, but it does not provide the flexibility to enhance your decision making. You guys are looking for a bolt-on solution to improve your forecasting capabilities and inventory management. During our discussions, you mentioned you've already looked at SAP and Oracle, but the learning curve and implementation time ruled those two options out. As our group, we considered the two problems. The first one is the short term, what bolt-on solution can we provide for MF Cachat? And two, we don't want to lose sight that in 10 years, MCBA will no longer be supported, so you'll have to replace that with an ERP system. So we're going to look at three options today. 1, the bolt-ons, 2, consulting firms, and 3, ERP systems. So the first bolt-on we have is Demand Solutions. They have experience with the distribution industry, with flexible interfaces, and they've worked with multiple ERP systems. They focus on inventory optimization, and they also provide dashboard reporting with charts that you guys mentioned you also use. They have a very fast implementation. The average is 90 days compared to a year for most companies. That allows for a high return on investment because the implementation timing is so short. They're also a Microsoft certified partner, which is a benefit because any of their clients also have that added partnership. The second bolt-on is Profit Point. They're familiar with MCBA and they have the ability to create a customized bolt-on solution. Through an interview with Rich Guide, he determined that the customized software would be able to include multiple months of forecast, which was one of the issues that you guys mentioned. Your system currently only goes out 1 month, so you wanted to add the additional months and to have the flexibility of using different forecasting methods, including management overrides. So in 3 months or so, if you know your customer is going to have an increase in demand, you're able to override the current system and put that forecasting in. Right now, all of that is being done outside the system. You can also customize charts and add any applications that you guys are looking for with information and data. Here's a few clients that Profit Point uses or is working with today. They represent chemical companies as well as distribution companies. The third bolt-on we looked at was Smart Software Solutions. They focus on inventory optimization to create the right balance. They can predict if your inventory is running too high or too low and provide alerts, which is another thing you guys mentioned. Being able to get an email or an alert to say, hey, this principal is trending too high, you might want to cut off orders, or hey, the orders aren't coming in on another code. The company has user-friendly interface and looks similar to Excel. Here are their screenshots. And an important part is you guys are looking for forecasting capabilities. Their flagship software is Smart Forecast Experience. And they also have experience with some pharmaceutical companies as well as distribution. So from there, we're going to look into consultants.
Thank you, Courtney. My name is George Sample, and we're going to talk about the consulting piece. As we talk about these different solutions, be it a bolt-on solution or ERP solution, we're going to need an IT consultant that's going to be a partner for us and take us through the process. I've sat down and interviewed 3 different consulting firms that can be potential partners to make sure MF Cachat has a good result at the end of the process. The first thing we want to do is make sure we're partnering with a consulting firm that is solid and has a good foundation they're going to be around. We don't want to be in bed with a partner who's going to go bankrupt through the project or get done with the project and then not be able to rely on them for post-project support. So you can see the tenure for these companies. The shortest tenured one being 14 years and all the other ones having more experience and more tenure than that. So these are some solid companies that we're looking at. Experience with MCBA. So this is an important factor for the IT consulting firm to have for us to work on this project with MF Cachat. Walehi, plenty of experience with MCBA. They actually employ people who used to work for the MCBA company. So it's good to know that that's a company that have those people on their staff. CompuPlus, they have less MCBA experience. They have enough to get the job done. However, they don't have the same depth that Lehigh has. However, they do have a lot of good ERP experience. So you talk about the best practices in ERP management, being able to implement a robust solution and being able to look at the problem from a lot of different angles. CompuPlus is definitely a heavy player when you talk about ERPs. The third company, Retail Systems Associates, once again in the same boat with CompuPlus and not having much specific MCBA experience. However, MCBA is written in COBOL programming language. A little bit of background on the COBOL programming language. It's an older, more legacy kind of programming language. There's not a lot of firms or consultants who write code in this language currently. Retail Systems Associates has extensive knowledge and extensive experience writing in the COBOL language. So they will be a great partner going forward, and they'll be able to provide us flexibility to do new and exciting things with old code. Location. When we had that initial sit down, we talked about wanting to have a vendor that was local, so we'd be able to see them face to face and be able to really partner going forward. Lehigh, you can see they're based in Cincinnati. However, they have a significant number of their customers in the Cleveland area. Both CompuPlus and Retail Systems Associates are in the greater Cleveland area. MFJ, being a consulting company, a distribution company, we want to make sure the consultant, the IT consultant we bring on, has experience with distribution companies. Leahy, great experience with distributors. However, when you look at CompuPlus, they work only with manufacturers and distributors. So that's a great checkbox. You're looking at the IT consultant choices that you have available to you. With Retail Systems Associates, they're more broad. So they will be in a lot of different disciplines, and then they'll have that same focus that you will see from a CompuPlus. Average project size. When we talked about the budget for this project, we said it's going to be $150,000. Now when you're looking at IT consultants, you want to make sure you find the kind of consultant that the $150,000 budget is not too big for them, where it won't be their biggest project and it's kind of biting off more than you can chew. But also, you want to make sure you're not with a consultant where the $150,000 project is not of significant scope for them. Because if you have that kind of system, you have that in place, they might not give you the same kind of customer service or attention to detail as they would give their bigger customers. I've listed the ranges for the average projects for these companies. Leahy being from $100,000 to $1 million. A $150,000 project would be on the low end of their scale, their scope. For CompuPlus, the $150,000 project is right in the middle of their range, so right in their wheelhouse of what they're used to doing and performing on a regular basis. With Retail Systems Associates, it was hard to pin the consultant down on an exact number or average or range for the projects they do. I got the sense that there was less than CompuPlus's range for projects. Alright, so we spent some significant time talking about these three IT consulting firms. I want to leave you with one distinguishing factor for all three of the firms as we go forward. Leahy, they have, going back to the consultants, they have employees that have previously worked with MCBA. So being with that original company, having a lot of the basis and background from that experience. With CompuPlus, their president is a developer. So he's going to be a person who's going to be out in the field. He's going to have consistent contact with you as you go forward with the process. So you know you're going to get good customer service going with CompuPlus. And then Retail Systems Associates, I mean, they're experts in language COBOL, so they'll be the right kind of technology, the right kind of developers, and it also will open up new avenues, new paths. As we have the requirements that we've set out already, they'll be able to handle that, but also have ideas to add in new functionality and new things that you might not have thought about before. So now we'll talk about ERP systems.
Thanks, George. Hi, I'm Mike Del Zoppo. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about ERP systems that we looked into, or even more specifically, the factors that we considered when looking at ERP systems. So I know when you said that you're interested in having us pursue this project, you weren't particularly interested in ERP systems. So we looked at consulting, we looked at bolt-on solutions, but we felt like we wouldn't be doing our due diligence unless we considered ERP solutions as part of the analysis. Now, when considering ERP solutions, there's a number of criteria that we used. One of the most primary was looking at a second-tier ERP provider. We know you mentioned that you looked at SAP, you looked at Oracle, but they were too big, too complex, too costly. When we look at the second tier, that's really not only good enough, but a perfect type of provider to meet your needs. The second tier providers are generally more focused on companies between the size of $50 million sales per year and $1 billion per year. They're able to make their tools work more cohesively with your business operations than the tier 1 providers, where they want their product or their system to influence your business processes. But the second tier providers really, they're able to modify their systems based on your processes. So not only do we get the benefit of reduced cost and reduced complexity, but we feel like second tier will meet your needs from the flexibility standpoint. We know that forecasting was important to you. So in your current solution, you're able to look about a month into the future, and that doesn't really help you when you need to project your inventory 3 months out, especially when you know there's going to be an influx in sales orders coming in, but you don't have necessarily an idea of exactly how much sales will be impacted. So one of the primary factors that we use when looking at companies out in the market space is their ability to forecast and their ability to help you meet your need in that regard. Now, related to forecasting, we looked at seasonality components. So one of your principals might have significant seasonality impact, while others are not impacted by seasonality at all. So we'd like for you to be able to set those parameters and account for the smoothing model and say, this principle is affected, this one's not. Preset it and have it run its course and provide you with the analysis. One of the last items that we consider to be very important when looking out in the market is alerting. And there's really two facets that we considered when alerting. The first is sales orders. And really we want to make sure that these providers could provide you with a trigger when maybe a customer order doesn't come in when it's expected. So when we looked at historical data and create trend analyses, customer orders come in on a relatively frequent basis. Now we create expectations based on what orders will come in the future from what we received in the past. So if there's a customer order that's missing, maybe it got submitted under the wrong product number, or maybe the customer simply forgot, this can provide you with a trigger so that you can reach out to that customer and ask them, hey, did you forget to submit your order? Did you mean to put it in? And this way you're not losing sales based on a minor human error. Second component to alerting is inventory management. And if your inventories are getting at a dangerous level where you may run out of supply, you can get ahead of that using the alerts, get the order in so that you have plenty of supply and time for when you need to ship out. So now that you know the primary factors that we considered when looking in the market space, I wanted to turn it over to Eric and have him articulate some of the providers that we considered in the market.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Eric Abadi. I want to walk through the 6 ERP providers we looked at and also walk through our recommendations in both the short run and long run. The 6 ERP providers you see here on the screen, we ranked based on the categories Mike just walked through, and also based on ease of implementation and their customer support abilities. If you look at the ERP providers here on the left, these are the top 3 ERP providers we think you should look at. The first is IBS. IBS offers everything you want and more. They offer the ability to forecast using multiple methodologies, and they offer you the ability to forecast at different levels. So for example, you could forecast at a region level and at a product level. Another thing IBS offers is a supply management tool. This will help you understand the inventory you need for your expected demand. This will allow you to hold down your inventory costs because you're only going to be purchasing the amount of inventory you need to match your demand. There are a couple of disadvantages to IBS, the biggest one being the long implementation time. It takes on average about 1 to 2 years to implement the IBS system versus an industry average of 8 months. IBS is also a very complex system, so it could take a while for your employees to get used to using the system. The next ERP provider we looked at was Pronto. And the biggest advantage to Pronto is they offer a solution that is specific to chemical distributors. They offer all the functionality you need from both forecasting and alerts to when your inventory is getting low, and they provide consulting services to provide you an upgrade path to when you want to improve your system. The final provider we looked at was Abbas. And one of the biggest advantages to Abbas is that it takes 6.5 months to implement their system versus the industry average I mentioned before of 8 months. Also provides all the functionality you need, and they provide a free upgrade every year when they upgrade their system. So now I walked you through some of the top ERP providers. I wanted to go through our recommendation about the short run and long run. In the short run, we recommend going with a bolt-on option of Profit Point. Profit Point offers numerous advantages, and one of the biggest ones being that you can integrate it into your current MCBA system. It gives you the ability to forecast past 1 month. It also gives you the ability to forecast using multiple methodologies. And probably one of the biggest advantages, probably one of the most important as well, is that it comes under your budget of 150 grand for purchase. Now, we understand that MCBA will not be supported within a 10-year time frame. So we also wanted to offer you a long-run solution that you could use once MCBA became obsolete. And we think in that 10-year time frame, you should really look at an ERP provider, because if you're going to replace your whole system, you might as well replace your system with something that could give you all the functionality you need. And again, the 3 ERP providers we think you should look at as the top 3 are IBS, Pronto, and Abbas. Thank you for listening to our presentation today, and have a good night.